So the news today, day 2 training camp, Nick Allegretti suffered a strained calf in yesterday's practice. Dan Quinn talked about, however, does not appear to be serious. Not a lot of concern. Traylon Burks out today with foot soreness, but again, Dan Quinn saying the team's not overly concerned with either injury. That, according to our show's team beat reporter. Ben Standing. So Quinn talked before the practice today. There were a couple of sound bites that I thought were interesting. I haven't heard them. Max has listened to them and picked them out. I want to hear what he said about Chig Okonkwo. This was Quinn earlier on their new tight end.
Hey, Dan, with regards to Chig, I'm just curious, like, what your thoughts were at the time you were presented, hey, maybe we can bring this guy in. And now that you've had him for a few months, what have you learned or what's maybe changed in that? Thank you.
I loved the urgency and the competitiveness. That's what jumped out on tape, Ben. So he's not the biggest guy, but beating him to the punch and having the quickness to go. So I thought that was, one of the things that I really liked about his game. If we add those type of players, what generally happens, that manifests itself into like absolutely battling for it. And so to see him in a system in a tight end from play actions and down the field throws, we thought that would be like a good mesh for him. It was also what he was looking for too. So when we showed clips from there and showed the clips of what we were going to do, we intercut them together to like paint a clear picture. I think anytime a person's a free agent coming here, you want to say like, this is how we plan on featuring you here. So they have a clear vision, say, you know what, this is a good spot for me, like relative to the dollars and cents to say, okay, this is why I should choose, this place.
What did you present him to say, hey, this is, we saw how you were maybe used here. We can do something different here.
Yeah, the long play action passing, over routes, pylon routes, things that were down the field, and even some, crossing routes that are catch and run to use some of his speed. So we just wanted to, highlight, hey, this is what we think you can do.
Yeah, I mean, so a couple of things about Chig Okonkwo. What Quinn emphasized there, by the way, play action. That more than anything else, you may not see it a lot, in a preseason game. This team is going to be, mark my words, top 10 in the league, maybe higher than that, in play action pass attempts. They've been in the bottom 3 or 4 for the last 2 years. And Chig is definitely one of those guys on over routes, on play action, deeper shots, is going to be a weapon. He can really run. He's not the same as Ertz. Ertz is a big target, good route runner, always where he needs to be. A guy that can contested catch because of his size, real crafty in his ability to block out and get position. Chig isn't that. Chig is a very good route runner. Chig is explosive and strong. Chig's excellent after the catch. Chig is really good at making people miss after he's made a catch, but then also running somebody over. I think this is going to be the breakout year for Chig Okonkwo. I think he's been on the verge, but just hasn't been on a good team, hasn't been on a good offensive football team, clearly, and hasn't had a good quarterback. I mean, I think Cam Ward's going to eventually develop into a good quarterback. But on that team last year, there wasn't a whole hell of a lot, in terms of options. By the way, Van Jefferson was on that team for a few games. Calvin Ridley was on the team with Cam Ward. But Chig was the leading pass catcher. He had 56 catches. And I'm sure for Cam Ward, he became a guy where it's like, at least if I get him the ball, he's going to make something happen. And I think we'll see a lot of that out of the offense, in addition to the play action, early down, deep shots for Chig. I'm excited about Chig Okonkwo. We had somebody on that was not super impressed with that signing, and I'm forgetting who it was at this point during the offseason. I like that signing. I think it's going to pay off. This was Quinn on the two centers that are not projected to start. We played for you the sound yesterday about how absolutely convinced Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are about Nick Allegretti. Well, Nick Allegretti calf strain, might miss some time. They're not serious. But the only other two centers they have in camp are the sixth round pick, Matt Gulbin from Michigan State, and then Julian Good-Jones, who's been on the roster for a bit. This was Quinn talking about the depth at center.
With Matt and Julian now having to, basically step in with Nick being out, do you guys change anything as far as preparation for practice, or just keep it going?
Nope, we just keep it going. And those are the ones you move it around some. But even within a practice, there's going to be times where you'll see a guy maybe go up to the first group to go. It's just to what are you going to do? And so every player deserves his chance to go perform. And so as coaches, hey, I want to see this third player with the first group. What's he going to do? How's he going to react? All right, I'm in the huddle now with Jaden, and here I am. So I wanted to find that out. But because we're putting it all in together, no change of that. Just we have about 4 guys that can snap and go through that. And so we rotate that through.
There you go. They need Nick Allegretti healthy, and they're going to need him healthy all season long, is my guess. They believe in him. Doesn't mean they'll be right. We'll see how it works out. And then lastly, the other soundbite that Max wanted to play and picked out was just on upgrades in personnel and scheme defensively, hopefully resulting in more takeaways. Here's what Quinn said.
Hey, Dan, only 10 forced turnovers last year, which I'm sure is a number you didn't like. What do you think the upgrades and the changes in terms of personnel and scheme are going to help get that number up to a number you'd like?
Yeah, it's everything for us. And so it's the way that we do it. You might have saw it even at the beginning of practice of, every skill player onto the jugs, the intentionality of it. And so it's a big part of it. It's honestly it's our philosophy, the way we take care of it on offense, great decisions. And that's one of Jaden's superpowers, his accuracy of putting the ball in the right location, in the zone, in demand to go. And so defensively, it's the mindset to go after it. So we do things like how many times are we taking shots at the ball, having opportunities and converting on those chances. So it's something that's an everyday discussion for us.
10 takeaways in 2025. Second worst in the league. Only the Jets were worse. The Jets were horrendous with a defensive head coach with 4 takeaways on the season. 10 takeaways in 17 games. And by the way, the year before in 2024, so they were 31st last year, they were 26th in the league in takeaways in 2024 with just 17. That has to change, man. You want to help Jaden. You want to help the offense. You've got to be better on defense. I totally agree and buy into their emphasis on flooding the room with defensive players that are new and more capable and younger and faster and all of those things. That is just as important in the helping of the football team and of the offense as would have been, Carnell Tate at 7 or Alec Pierce in free agency. I mean, it's almost impossible to compete for a playoff spot with 10 takeaways on the season. Now, the overall differential wasn't great either. It was second worst in the league at minus 13. They had 23 overall giveaways in the league. Which was, tied for 25th in the most giveaways. But you got to get more takeaways. This is what Quinn did so well in Dallas. They were a takeaway machine. He has not been able to figure that out yet. Now, last year in the league, Minnesota, a part of a team that Durante Jones was a coach on, 21 takeaways, more than 2 times what Washington had, tied for 8th best in the league. But look at the takeaway numbers last year and how they translate to really good seasons. Chicago was number 1 in the league with 33 takeaways. Jacksonville was 2. Houston was 3. Pittsburgh was 4. The Rams 5. Seattle 6. The top 6 takeaway teams in the league were in the postseason. Then it was Atlanta at 7. Okay, tied for 7th. Now, let me just say, the Falcons had, lots of injuries on offense. Defensively, they got after it. They did not make the playoffs. They missed the playoffs by 1 game. They were 1 game away from winning the division. But then here's the next group of teams: the Chargers, the Buccaneers, and the Panthers. Did I just give you the top 10? Out of the top 10 takeaway teams in the league last year, 9 of them were playoff teams. 9 of them. So you got to get better on that. With Jaden Daniels healthy and upright for 17 games, no matter what you put around him, if you get off the field more than you did in 25, with, by the way, just third down stops. Let's start there. Third down stops would be a nice thing to have for sure, defensively. And if you get off the field with it soon enough to get good field position, and then if you turn people over and shorten the field or even score, imagine what they would have been in 24 with that kind of with a good takeaway defense. Imagine what they would have been last year with a better takeaway difference. They wouldn't have won 5 games. Now, without Jaden, they weren't going to win more than 6 or 7. But you got to become a better takeaway team. You got to be a better team on third down. And they attempted to change their defensive production with all of those new players.